I have been a therapist for more than 30 years, working at Cornell University in New York City. We decided to use a therapy called EMDR, which essentially is a mind-body free association psychotherapy. One of the ways that people do it is through a situation where they're holding paddles that look something like this in their hands. They're vibrating left and right, left and right. And that paired with a specific way of doing the therapy help the client to sort of relax into their body and have access to both sides of their brain as they're reprocessing some traumatic memories. We're now at a position where this is a remote device. It's not, you don't have to plug it in, it's battery operated. It runs off of Wi-Fi, so it could be anywhere in the world. And so you just have this, which is, and then you have the paddles, and then the therapist or the individual just is running it off of their phone in terms of intensity and speed and on and off.
Where did you guys see any difficulties or challenges that maybe our entrepreneurs and business owners could resonate with?
We have done.
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we discuss how to grow 1% every day in both business and self. Joining me today is Gerard and Dustin from Vybez. Vybez is the only device designed to enable remote EMDR therapy, combining cutting-edge tech with unparalleled ease of use. Originally used in EMDR therapy to help trauma, Vybez has expanded to much, much more. Thank you, Gerard and Dustin, for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having us, Kyle.
Yeah, super excited because I've been going through it. My father actually became a therapist very late in life. After a car accident when I was about 16 years old, he decided to go back into college and become a therapist. And his practices and his learning and his understanding of perception versus perspective, his ideologies of how to get through trauma, things like that have helped me immensely throughout my life. So to see new technology come out that supports people going through traumas is very, very powerful. Can you guys give me a breakdown of how this all started, where the idea came from, and how you created the product that you have today?
I'll start, and I'm going to let Dustin jump in because this is sort of a two-part story here. So I have been a therapist for more than 30 years, working at Cornell Medical School at Cornell University in New York City, running a trauma program. And Cornell ran a large veterans program for returning Iraq and Afghanistan combat veterans. And we decided to use a therapy called EMDR, which essentially is a mind-body free association psychotherapy that helps people process their trauma so they're not stuck in it for the rest of their lives. And the way that you do it usually is in the office. And one of the ways that people do it is through a situation where they're holding paddles that look something like this in their hands. They're vibrating left and right, left and right. And that paired with a specific way of doing the therapy helps the client to sort of relax into their body and have access to both sides of their brain as they're reprocessing some traumatic memories. We did that in the office for a long time, and Dustin had some experience with that, but we wanted to expand our reach beyond the office because I had veterans all over the state and all over the country who needed EMDR therapy but couldn't come into the office. And so, Dustin, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience and what you came up with next?
Yeah, sure. And thanks again, Kyle. I loved hearing Gerard talk about this. It's one of my favorite things. So yeah, I walked in as a military veteran that spent nearly 3 years in Baghdad, walked in a total mess. And Gerard said, have a seat, bring me all your things. And so I did. And we got to work. It was incredible. It was life-changing. I had never heard of EMDR, and I became an instant fan. And one of the questions we started posing to one another was, what happens if you can't constantly come into the office? What do you do? And that is really the framing of what we're doing right now with Vybez. How do we remotely access therapy for folks and still deliver EMDR in the traditional sense, holding the paddles, working with your clinician? And we were off to the races really with just an idea.
Dustin really is being modest. He was the one who found the way to get this going. And we've now been in business since 2018 doing this prior to COVID, which was an interesting thing to have in our hands already before telehealth and therapy really took off the way it did. And so we have run through a variety of iterations of this. We're now at a position where this is a remote device. It's not, you don't have to plug it in, it's battery operated. It runs off of a Wi-Fi, so it could be anywhere in the world. And so you just have this, which is, and then you have the paddles, and then the therapist or the individual just is running it off of their phone in terms of intensity and speed and on and off. The beautiful thing about this is that it's not just for EMDR therapy. We are out in the EMDR world, such as it is. There are 100,000 EMDR therapists in the US doing trauma work. What we found is that clients really benefit from this in between sessions. So they use it for whenever they want to get in their body, calm down, relax, sort of like calm attention. So if they're getting ready for a job interview, if they have to focus on their homework, if they want to be calm before they go out on a social event, before giving a talk, if they need to be able to go to sleep more easily, if they just need to be able to get back in their body, they're able to use the alternating tactile vibrations with a meditation script that we have as part of the subscription fee that people get. So they have access to meditations that are very specific, as well as anything else they want to pair it with, whether it's music or their own meditations or their own sort of mantras or things that might help them calm down. So it's incredibly effective. We're pairing it with all kinds of stuff. It's got international reach right now. We have this in Australia, we have it in Singapore, we have it in Europe, and we have it in the US. And we're just very excited about all the possibilities.
What an incredible story and conjunction of you two. Gerard, with your expertise and your professionalism, your knowledge within the field and all of your studies, and then Dustin, your firsthand experience with this product that allowed it for you two to come together to be able to create something that could be in the hands, in their home, so people can be more comfortable with themselves. I mean, super, super powerful. You know, you guys must have been a golden time releasing this right previous to COVID and the real telehealth boom. Can you talk a little bit about, because all entrepreneurs and business owners listening to this right now, they hear these ideas and say, wow, that's such a perfect fit for customers. But how did you enter the market? How did you, after you built the product, how do you actually go out and develop it into people's minds so that they know that it has value and that they need to have it? They're having these trauma issues. How did you guys actually start this process?
Yeah, I'll start, and I'm sure Dustin will jump in. We started with a network of therapists that were already doing this type of therapy. So we had access to 250 of those therapists across the country because of this project we were doing at Cornell. And so the idea was to introduce it to them, as well as my New York cohort, and just let them use it, in the office with folks. Because again, during COVID, people were not coming into the office anymore. So we could mail the device directly to clients and just have the therapist run it from wherever they were. They were often home, the client was home. They suddenly weren't going into clinics or offices anymore, but we were able to still have that out there and give people that opportunity. And then we did the normal things, which is, of course, go to conferences, go to expos and exhibition halls of EMDR conferences, et cetera. So we started to get people to understand what this is about. And I would say where we are now is bringing this in a more broad way through social media, et cetera, to start to introduce it to the general public, because people do understand that wellness is really important. I think businesses understand that if they have employees that are more calm and are able to do their work more easily, they're able to benefit from something like this as well. So we're B2B as well as B2C. In terms of, direct to consumer. They just, they buy the device, and then there's a subscription cost that's annual that gives them access to the platform, as well as to a growing library of meditation and other types of tools, audio tools that go with it.
And Gerard, if I can add, it was sort of a perfect storm, right? I'm exiting therapy, have, in my opinion, the world's best EMDR mental health clinician in my corner. And I happened to be in grad school at NYU at the time, in business school, and just starting. And this idea had been floating around right at the beginning of this MBA program. So it was a really cool time to be able to take an idea and get it off of paper. And I can't tell you how many things I've thought of in my life, right, that they've never made it out of, the group chat, if you will. So it was a perfect storm in the way of, how do you actually invent something? How do you get it off of paper? How do you take this idea and launch it? And it took a while, and it took a long while to actually find someone. His name's Greg. He's a brilliant engineer. It took a while to find someone like that that could buy into our idea and help launch this thing. Start with one device. And that's what we did. We started with one device and we made it work, right? But most of the time, both of the paddles were buzzing. Most of the time we could get it to turn on. But we proved the art of the possible by doing that, by taking a hard look at who's the right person that can help us build the hardware and that can help us manage the software and continuously upgrade that software over time as the device improves, as the need grows, as customers and supporters start coming online. Who's the best fit? That took some time, but we started with one device that was super glued together, more or less, pieces and parts 3D printed, right? And we showed ourselves, okay, it can work. Now do people want it? And that's what Gerard's talking about. This was back in 2018, gluing things together. All right, now do we improve on that? We're on generation 5 of the device now, and it's our most flawless unit available yet. It's our sleekest, it's our best. We've never been better at it than right now. And that has been an overwhelming joy to watch people use it and use it with more ease than they ever had and still get good, if not best, trauma therapy in the comfort of wherever they might be doing whatever they're doing. They can still access mental health care. And that has been huge for us.
For the entrepreneurs and business owners, listen to the trials and the tribulations they had to go through. They had a dream, they had a vision. Yes, they said it's a perfect storm, but personally, I don't believe in luck. I think luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? And your preparation on both of your side, Dustin, your backstory, Gerard, your education and your knowledge in the field coming together and being able to create this. I want to dive in a little bit about who this is for. And Dustin, I'd love for you to take the head on this answer because, when we build products like this, we usually have it for one consumer avatar in mind, and then it starts expanding and developing. Can you talk a little bit about, as you said, you're trying to find out who was the perfect fit for this product? Who did you find that really absorbed the product initially, and how's it been growing since then?
We started with my cohort, military veterans that had experienced trauma of any given nature and wanted to improve and or cure that trauma, quite seriously, no longer be affected by it day to day. And the impact was resounding. It impacted their families in a healthy way, their children, their communities, their schoolwork, their ability to show up on any given day and be the person that they are seeking out to be, right? A healed person. So that's what it started with, military veterans. It's greatly morphed over time. Gerard will talk about some projects he has going on, but that was the initial why. I don't want my cohort to be dying by suicide anymore. And that was the genesis, because I can tell you people involved with what we were doing, Gerard and myself, their friends, their family were dying by suicide. They were military veterans. That was impacting their entire ecosystem. And I was exhausted by it. My entire world of military veterans, it was in the papers all the time, right? The numbers will vary. At the height, you heard, 22 veterans a day. Now that number is not necessarily just post 9/11 combat veterans, but even more so, the point being, it was military veterans doing it. So that was the why. And that customer base, those people that are looking to improve, get back to the selves they know and love and their families knew and loved, that has changed, right? Because trauma doesn't just affect military veterans. Trauma is a societal issue. And Gerard's been at the forefront of that really his whole life, treating cohorts that vary, that have experienced deep trauma. And Gerard will talk about that, but that was the genesis of this product initially.
Justin, thank you for sharing that. Honestly, it's a very powerful thing to help individuals in that position. And Gerard, can you talk about how it's evolved? What is the consumer avatar that you're seeing now that's starting to absorb the product?
Sure. I think that, veterans really was where we started. Those veterans had combat trauma, but they also had a lot of childhood trauma and other things that they walked into this with. So the cohort of therapists that we were working with, started branching out into all different types of trauma that went beyond that, child, physical and sexual abuse, et cetera, people with addiction issues, people with medical traumas that were a result of either, their service or other medical stuff that came along the way. Dustin alluded to the fact that I worked in HIV and AIDS for 25 years before I did any of this. So, working with different populations of people with medical issues, as well as the LGBTQ plus community, where I spent the last couple of years doing work. So it expanded beyond, but what I want to say is when the clients that I had and that we had started saying, I can't get enough of these buzzers. I'm using this in between sessions for all these other reasons. I'm using it to help me center. I'm using it when I get nervous. I'm using it when I need to focus on something. And that's when we really realized what we had here was well beyond, the sort of story of alternating tapping or alternating bilateral stimulation, if you will, goes back thousands and thousands of years to people using drumming or dancing as a way to deal with hard times or trauma or genocide or whatever. So this is not new. It's a tech variety that we sort of have come on and are making it so much easier for folks because they don't have to do the work. They just basically are passively receiving the alternating buzzing, which is engaging parasympathetic nervous system, which is engaging their ability to calm down and stay in their body and focus, and give them access again to their sort of prefrontal cortex and their reason and their ability to plan and do work and create as well. So now my clients include authors or performers or business folk or people applying for jobs. So that it just goes on and on. I'm also using it in addiction and compulsion work with helping people stop drinking or stop using drugs or stopping compulsive behaviors, be they gambling or sexual or smoking or whatever else. So it's really got a very wide applicability, but mostly it has, this is something that just somebody can use as a tool for their wellness and pair it with meditation or anything else that they're using. People are so interested in mental health and improving themselves that this is just a tool that really can, I think, deepen that and really strengthen that.
And I think all of our entrepreneurs and listeners here can understand the difficulties of stress, the difficulties of something that can just support them finding themselves, right? It's almost 5 o'clock here in the afternoon. I'm about 18 meetings deep throughout the day. And if it wasn't for my 4 cups of coffee in the morning, I wouldn't be able to get up. But by the time I get to about 3-4 o'clock here, it gets to a point where it's like, man, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I think we all go through that. And I think we can all resonate with that. I really would like to understand where the business is today. It's a subscription model, annual subscription model. How many subscribers do you guys currently have?
I think we're at the beginning of our growth. This is something that is pretty new. So I would say we're really just starting out, but, it's taking off and, we're just couldn't be more excited to see it grow as it is. Like I said, some of the ways we're doing it include, with trainers, so people who are training other therapists, and a lot of that's being done through telehealth now. So we're doing collaborations with other trainers who are, buying whatever 50 or 100 devices at a time to do big trainings that they're doing. The international market is interested in this. Some markets just really like tech more than anything else. So in Singapore, they're very excited about it. I just got back from teaching in Australia back in May and got a lot of folks there interested in it. So we're at the beginning, but it's really taking off.
Love hearing that. And I think I believe something like this should take off. Can you talk to me a little bit about the kind of the difficulties that you've had throughout the development of it? Obviously 3D printing and gluing the things together in the beginning process to get the prototype model. But then as you started expanding this and started telling people about it and trying to grow the business, where did you guys see any difficulties or challenges that maybe our entrepreneurs and business owners here that are listening could resonate with?
You want me to jump into that one? Yeah. Where to begin with difficulties. We have done a ton of failing forward and always in the best way possible. We had initial issues with just getting time, right? Time to get this thing coded, time to test. We had plastic issues, manufacturing issues, identifying the right manufacturer. We're currently with a great partner out of Colorado. And I put everything together here at home in San Diego. We've had chip issues that you wouldn't believe. And actually you will, right? Chips changing size has affected our actual injection overmolded plastic piece. Where do screw ports go? If manufacturers cease to make a certain chip and either expand or reduce the size, our screw ports are now not going to work. or sizing issues, right? We have a certain set of screws we use to put this thing together. If those holes change on the actual Arduino micro board, that affects our ability to put these things together and get them out of the mail or out into the mail at a reasonable pace. Those are just some of the things. Brand issues, right? How do we want to be seen? How do we talk about ourselves? Those things take time, and they evolve over time as we professionalize, as we take a deep understanding of who's using the device and why and how long. That affects battery, right? How long does this thing need to buzz for? What size battery are we going to use? But those are just some of the more top line issues we've seen. But we've done a lot of failing forward. We've thought about some of these things in advance, sometimes on accident. And I think now where we're at is, who is that evolving customer? Who is going to be using this? And how do we present the best product for them? Because this still, at the root of it, is about getting people better and about getting people operating at the level they want to operate. And that sometimes means healing, right? Getting over things that are in their way to be successful in their lives. So how do we present to them in the most professional way? But again, that in my opinion, that you fail forward, right? Because you create a better product every single time that you have an issue like this. You get tighter, you get faster with fixing issues because you've seen it before. And now you can anticipate a little bit. What happens if there is a global war with China, right? What happens if China invades Taiwan? Where are our chips coming from? So these are things we're thinking about. Plastic, we're thinking about, are there ways to get plastic faster? Anyway, those are some of the things.
A lot of issues, yeah. And I really want to unpack two different factors there. One, the bringing to market a brand new idea and concept. A lot of e-commerce based entrepreneurs, a lot of people that are selling products that are secondhand from either China, Alibaba, or a product even made here in the US. It's a lot easier for you to find a product that's trending online and be able to get that to market through your own marketing and advertising and your methods that way. But when you want to bring a brand new idea to market, when you want to create something that's really going to help the world that hasn't existed in the world yet, this is the process and procedures you have to go through. Everything from the screw to the microchip to the fitting to the overall size and engagement the customer is going to have to go through, and then the evolution of that. It's great to hear that you guys are on your 5th variation of the product and you're feeling so confident about where it is today, but I can almost guarantee if I talk to you in a year, the product will be different. And then a year after that, the product will be different, right? And this is the evolution of bringing products to the market. So if you're in the space as an entrepreneur where you're trying to bring something new, don't ever hesitate to, as Dustin said here, fall forward, which is a great analogy for all entrepreneurs and business owners, right? We constantly go through these trials and tribulations that feel like roadblocks or just walls in front of us, but there truly are just learning lessons that are going to make us better in understanding our business, understanding our customer, and understanding how to make our product better for the consumer base that we're going after. My next question kind of leads into that future of where you guys are going. Telehealth and online therapy and other factors have really developed and boomed over the last 5 years since COVID. And your product brings that to a whole nother level where you're not just getting a visual connection with a therapist, but now a visual and a physical connection that you can get. Do you believe that this is the evolution of all therapy going forward? Kind of where do you see this realm of therapy going, say, the next 1 to 3 years? Do you see more products like yours coming to market, or do you believe that there's a different level of evolution that's going to happen?
I think that there is a lot of interest in somatically involved devices to enhance or help with therapy, or even with just getting people calmed down. And if you look for them, you'll find stuff like that out there. Some of them are priced very, very high and make it not so available to folks. And some of them don't have a lot of data attached to them. Ours is actually priced very, very well, lower than any of our competitors. And it is something that I think is people can use easily to really help with whatever it is that they're going through. So I do think that you're going to see more and more of this. From a telehealth point of view, it is what you hear. People will say, I don't feel connected to the therapist. I don't really feel like I'm having this experience. But I have to say, when I'm turning something on and off, when I'm increasing or decreasing the speed, when I'm, bringing into the room, what are you noticing? What are you feeling, while we're doing this? And that's not just for EMDR therapy. I mean, any therapist wants to be able to give their client a tool to deal with anxiety or deal with depression or deal with something, all of which typically has a body component to it. So anything that's engaging the body while you're doing it, and then to be able to give it to the client afterwards so that they can do this in between when they're not feeling well or when they need to just relax or calm down or get a hold of themselves again or get back access to their thinking brain instead of their being wildly emotionally overwhelmed. So it's something that I think is going to become increased. I'll be honest. I hope that we're the first. I hope we blast through this and make Vybez the thing that everybody thinks of. But yeah, no, I can't see how something like this wouldn't continue to be a growing part of the therapy and the wellness market.
In addition to that, Gerard, sorry. I'm hyper aware of when EMDR is spoken about. And, I look at some of the larger podcasts, some of the larger media outlets. EMDR is becoming more main stage. It's being talked about more frequently by very fascinating people, from artists to musicians, politicians, right? People are aware of this. They're starting to talk about it. And I see it evolving outside of clinical therapy. What Gerard's saying, this thing will be used to regulate the nervous system for anything. How do you not overeat? How do you perform on stage in front of people? And how do you get that regulate, right? So you're not so jittery. How do you perform better at sports? Or how do you take a difficult meeting with a boss or a subordinate or, just a teammate? I see it evolving into more of the wellness space, exiting, if not complementing mental health, but becoming more main stage on, I use this to do X. I use this to increase performance in your chosen thing. And that excites me because that's the world of meditation even. I use it just to quiet myself. I put it on really low settings and I'm quiet. And that helps with sleep. It helps with just after a long road trip or hurting your leg in Arizona, which I've just done. It helps to calm the body, right? To be able to focus, to be able to, get back to doing the thing you want to do without being burdened or overwhelmed by something else that's going on peripheral to you. So that is exciting to us as a whole, is seeing this thing emerge and become a tool to get people better at the thing they want to improve in.
Yeah, it's super powerful. And I believe, Gerard, what you said is that you guys are at the first and the cutting edge of the product. And I don't think your personal opinion, I don't think your product line starts and stops with this single product, because the technology you've built here that allowing therapists and their patients to connect in a physical way as well as a digital way is, I believe, the evolution, right? People, especially when it comes to therapy, it is more widely used than I think that it ever has. But as you said, people feel disconnected from the therapist because of the telehealth positioning, right? Where we're just talking just like this recording right now, right? It would be great if we had the chance to have this over a table where you really feel the energy and the emotion that comes through every part of this conversation. And I think with tools like this, what you're developing here at Vybez will allow people to have that better connection. And it really, you guys stemmed into my next question, which is my final question, is how do you find your Kaizen? For the listeners out there, Kaizen is a Japanese business philosophy that means 1% improvement every single day. You're taking small steps towards a larger goal. Dustin, I'd love for you to start first of what you're currently doing, especially after going through this transformation with Gerard to, be able to get through your trauma. What are you doing on a daily basis to find your Kaizen? And then Gerard, if you can go after that, that'd be excellent.
I've begun with, and it's very recent, really. I'll just be very blunt, the elimination of Instagram in my life. It can't tell you how much time that thing will suck away from me. Exiting that is my 1%, right? As of today, that's 1% more attention I have for Vybez now. I'm not going to be sucked down rabbit holes or seeing all the fun memes that I get sent. And on the flip side of that, customer engagement. I'll have less distraction. I'll have more time to think about how are we engaging? And that's a 1% thing every single day is, are we saying the right things? Are we in front of people? Do they know we're thinking about them? So those are some of my 1%.
Love that. Just breaking the disconnection from the business and putting your focus into where you want to put your focus. Gerard, how about yourself?
Yeah, I was going to say, what Dustin mentioned, which is very specific, but it's a very broad thing. I think people are spending a lot of time on social media and digital platforms that, in a way, to sort of numb out, I think, and offering them the opportunity to do that when they want to, but not have it be an automatic thing. So that is something that I do with clients. I will use Vybez as a way to help them back out of that compulsion have a compulsion. But the way I try to do something every day for this business is continue to look at my network of therapists, continue to look at influencers, funny enough, on social media who are doing a lot of talking about health and mental health specifically, thinking about how to collaborate with them, continue to work with just folks that have this similar message, and start to create content that is going to support that and get this word out there. So we have a marketing arm of our group as well, and they are young and smart and good digital marketers, and they are helping us to figure out the different use cases, as you were talking about before, and how to start talking about that in a way that's very accessible and can be put out there in 15-second bites that people can consume it. So I think that's where my head is these days in terms of helping our business grow.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, both of you. I mean, such a powerful story. The combination of you two is just incredible. From someone that needed the service and support, someone that had the knowledge, and then to come together to create a product for the world to help them through this trauma therapy. If someone was listening to this right now and they have a huge interest in working with Vybez and connecting with you, where would they learn more about the product and get connected with you and be able to purchase it?
Yeah, jump right over to the website. It's Vybez, Vybez.me, Vybez.me. And that will get you to everything we have. And we'll have our YouTube on there, our socials, a pretty in-depth of what the product is on that site. And then you can get a hold of us there too.
Yep. And I would just add, if anybody wanted to reach out to me directly, they could do so on my website, which is bilateralhealth.com, or my email is gerard@bilateralhealth.com.
Awesome. I'm going to have both those websites below in the description. Gerard, Dustin, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. If you guys have finished this podcast, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you need any help and you're going through trauma and you have a difficulty, please reach out to individuals like this and make sure that you're getting help. We want to see everyone in a beautiful space, both mentally and physically, going forward to the future.